Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy. I have a PhD in learning disabilities.
Hi, I'm Kim Sharman. I don't know what I do. I've been working on this for 15 years, working with kids with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and ADHD.
And we're going to talk a little more about the previous video where we talked about RAN, rapid automatic naming. And I listed 3 characteristics of how do we do good instruction for kids that have issues with RAN. Okay, so Kim, do you remember what those 3 items were?
The first was to read slowly and accurately.
Go slow. So what do you think that means, Kim?
Well, when I'm working with a kid, in order to get them to stop guessing, because that's what a lot of these kids do, I often have them, when I see that they're guessing and they're just looking at the first letter of the word, I actually have them identify the vowel inside of the word first and find out if they know the sound of that vowel.
So we can force, you can see my dyslexia coming out where I don't always remember how to spell words, force them to look, right? And if you're really looking at a word, you can't go so fast. Okay.
Right, you're detective.
Okay. What's another way to go slow?
Sometimes I would cover up certain sounds in the word and have them go in a slower sequential manner.
Excellent. Okay. Another trick that I use with kids where I'm trying to get them to go slow and we're reading a passage is I create a cheat. If I can find a piece of paper here. And the cheat that I create is I will take, you can take an index card. I happen to have grabbed an envelope here and I'm cutting out a window. And so if we were actually reading a bunch of words, I can then limit the exposure of the upcoming word so that if we're actually reading a sentence or a passage, they can't jump ahead. And if I'm coming up to a word that has multiple syllables in it, I can now block the word. So I make the student decode each individual syllable, and then we can blend it all back together. My apologies, it doesn't work perfectly with the dry erase. Okay, so those are different ways to go slow. Okay, what's the next thing on the list there, Kim?
I think you said quality instruction, systematic cumulative instruction, understanding syllable types, phonemic awareness of the rules of language, etc.
Okay, so we have something called structured literacy now. And again, you can see my dyslexia where I am constantly having to go back and correct my spelling. And structured literacy is based on the science of reading. So you'll often see it abbreviated as SOR. And the science of reading actually went back and it analyzed decades of instruction in reading. And they looked at all the research literature and they said, what works and why does it work? Do we see benefit? Do we see consistent outcomes? Okay, so for a very long time, we've been under the false impression that if a kid reads rich literature and they get exposed to it enough, and if they bathe in enough reading, they will learn to read. And there's a segment of the population that does that, like 30% of kids will learn to read no matter what. However, 70% of the kids won't. Okay, they will continue to struggle no matter how much you expose them or bathe them in print. It's like having them sleep on the pillow with a book. Okay, and so the science of reading or structured literacy has 6 component parts, and we'll do another session on that. But those 6 component parts break out what we know to be effective. So a couple key ideas: you have to build phonemic awareness. You have to teach the 6 syllable types. And you have to focus on word origins. And you have to focus on morphology.
And lastly, also strategies for dividing complex words into syllables.
Which actually falls in the 6 syllable types.
Yeah.
So that's excellent. Okay, there's a little more to it than that, but there's too much to go on to for today. But that gives you the big ideas. And then the last thing I said was,
I think you said practice.
more practice. So these are kids that need more time actually executing and doing things correctly. So where another kid might need only 20 minutes of reading instruction, a kid with rapid naming deficits are probably going to need twice as much. Okay, just as a kind of an initial ballpark. So they're going to need more time to build that foundation and more time to strengthen those correct linkages to build the correct neural pathways so that they remember and execute consistently. And we're not putting more bad data on the hard drive. So it's very curated practice. We're going to revisit a concept that you've already taught and have them do it more and really build that robust skill set until they demonstrate that they can do it really automatically, that they're not having to think through it, and they've really built strong, fast linkages to get them in and out. Questions?
It's a good start. Got to
Okay.
keep going. Keep going.